There we go. Now it's working. Why didn't it work before? Ah, gosh. Okay. Gather around, children. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. That's what you say, right? It looks like we have gathered today in numerous... I can't do that, sorry. Yeah, welcome to this Sunday's live stream. The first live stream and the first video I'm doing in 2017. That's going to take a while to fully register. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about the 3D printers I have here. That there's a reason for each one of these existing. There's a reason for each one of these still being in my possession and not having been taken to parts, because that's what I do with printers that yeah, don't really have a reason for existing. So hungover? No, I hope you guys had a wonderful New Year's Eve and got out of bed well today. So yeah, you can hear me twice. That must be your hangover. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. Before we do that, first off, challenge to you: if you're following me on Twitter, you're not qualified, but find the microphone. You may notice I don't have the lav clipped to my neck today, so find my microphone. It's on me somewhere. Second of all, I want to say thank you to Max from Slovenia for sending this Logitech G13. This thing arrived on Christmas Day to make my video hotkey thing easier. I didn't have time to set it up yet, but I really appreciate it. I've been using it on my workstation for video editing and gaming. This is awesome. Thank you, Max, so much. Okay, well then, let's see if someone figures out that microphone thing. But let's get right into it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I count the 1, 6, 8-ish machines that we want to talk about today. And you know that they range all the way from super makery to super high-end, and yeah, you guys figured it out already. Yeah, and I sort of want to go through each one of them because each one of them is unique. Each one of them has a particular use case and does that thing well, because there still isn't like that one machine that does it all. that does it all. That is great for everything. Each one of them is specialized to one thing. So yes, you figured it out. It's my glasses. It's right in here, just hot glued. That might have been very loud for you guys. I'm sorry, but the idea is it's invisible. It doesn't catch my swallowing noises, and yeah, just something to try out. Hot glue to the rescue. Follow me on Twitter, by the way. So yeah, first machine, the Mendel 90. So this machine is my maker class machine. This is the result of years of detailing or years of improvement. I recently made a video saying goodbye to the old Mendel 90, and this is sort of what's coming for the new Mendel 90. So the idea for this one is, as you can see, this huge cheese plate up top here. Let's see, okay, that still works. So this enormous cheese plate on here, the x-axis essentially, this is going to be home to everything that you need, that you'll ever need on the x-axis. So there's going to be the belt mounted to it, there's going to be the drag chains mounted to it, the extruder is going to sit on the bottom here. It's going to be, you know, my experimental platform essentially for everything. So when someone sends me a new board to try out, the board's going to go in here. And whenever someone sends me a new extruder hot end, that's going to sit on the carriage. It's just going to be a standard. This is essentially 1 inch. It's 25 millimeters bracketing right there. So yeah, that's going to be home to a lot of hardware very soon. And of course, the bed is massive. This is a 6mm FR4. The original intent was to use this for milling as well. Oh yeah, right, that's the 9th machine. The original intent was to use it for milling, but right now it's just got this 160mm heated bed on here. PI code, it works great. It's too small for the machine. This is like 45 by 25 centimeters, which is pretty large, which is pretty huge. So that is that's that. Yeah, so obviously this one is going to get a larger bed and will be upgraded in the future. But in general, the idea is make it as massive as possible, because as you can see, I mean, it's got the linear rails, the 12mm ones on the z-axis and the 9mm ones on the x-axis. This isn't going anywhere. This is super massive. The idea is just to have the machine out of the equation, test platform, and of course, if it prints well, then that's going to be one of my workhorses too. So, yeah, tiny bed. Too bad. Yeah. Essentially, if you've seen the back here, lots of filament spool holders. These were intended to just take a spool, plop it on there, feed it up to the extruder, and that works. Chambers in the back for electronics and for the power supply, because there is or was a, I think, 850 watt ATX supply. The idea is to upgrade it to 230 volts and then use it like that. But again, everything modular, and also that modularity comes into play with these huge drag chains Egus sent me. So thanks to Egus for those. There's going to be one for the which way are these going to go? I think like that. Yeah. So there's going to be one on the, can you guys see that? Yeah, one on the x-axis, more or less like this. And one for the z-axis, the shorter one, right here. So that's going to be home to like 50-ish signals, enough power for 16 hot ends, a lot of hot ends, a lot of stuff, just to keep it as modular as possible. So if I get a new sensor, if I get a new hot end, if I get a quad hot end, those things are, you know, are supposed to exist. I'm going to be using this machine and just throw it on there, have everything wired up, plug it in, and it works. Because, you know, it is worth investing a bit extra time in setting up the machine right once, instead of just, you know, having to fiddle around with wiring and, you know, MOSFETs and power stuff each time. So, drag chains don't work in printers? Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, doesn't it work when it gets hot? No, that is the good thing about plywood. This is Baltic birch plywood, essentially, what you guys would call it. It's plywood, it's painted. Plywood has the lowest heat expansion factor of many of the common engineering materials, essentially much lower than aluminum or plastics. And because it's painted, it's not going to be an issue of it's not going to be an issue of moisture, moisture content deviating inside the wood. The point about the drag chains, yes, Mark Williams, I hear you. That's going to be, sorry if that was too loud. That's going to be a topic of another video. As you might notice, these drag chains have a huge bending radius. If I grab another one from somewhere down here, if I can find one. There we go. So these are some of the cheaper ones. If you compare them, yes, this one has a much tighter radius, which is much more straining on the wires than this bigger radius. These wires, these are specific drag chain cables. So they are okay for like 10 million cycles, so 10 million full strokes within the bend radius of the drag chain. There is going to be a video about how to, match your wires, match your drag chains to your wires to keep them from wearing out. And yeah, I guess that's the idea of the Mendel 90 as a whole. Overbuild things, and when I get a chance to do things right, do them right, like the drag chains. They're never gonna fail. Never. Okay. Do I like the A8? Haven't gotten that one yet. There was the UPS guy at my door this Friday demanding cash. I didn't have a tracking number for any 3D printer. I am supposed to get an ANET A8 and a Tivu Tarantula. I don't know which one it is. I didn't get a shipping notification for each one of them, but apparently a package from China charging me like 45 bucks for imports. We'll see which one it is. Right, Prusa Mark II. So I've got two of these. One of them is in the corner over there. These two are my workhorses. If you've seen my review of them, obviously it is a printer I very much like. And I might have not been great at getting the point across. I did call it the best 3D printer, and that still holds up. I still think this is these have hundreds of hours on them already. After using it extensively, I still think this is the best overall 3D printer. As much as I hate that phrase of calling something the absolute best, in any case, because again, there are specific use cases. But this machine is the best one for me and for, the typical maker, the person that is like me, that likes to make things, that likes to design things, that likes to print things, and not worry that much about the machine, because that is, in my opinion, the biggest downfall of the cheaper machines. You do have to worry more about the machine than about using it, but that's a whole nother story. So yeah, this one and the other one, I've been using them a ton. They still work great. They are open frame printers, which for ABS is a bit of a downfall. But I do have one of them in a, what is this, OBS? In a box, essentially, in a closure. And that works really well for ABS. It gets about 35-ish degrees in there, Celsius, which is much better than the ambient here, which is 20-ish. So yeah, if you want to take that out of the equation, just put it in a box. It works great there. Now, what I do like about the i3 and the reason why, it still is in the shape it is, I'm trying to keep one of these as a reference machine, unmodified. Let's see, it's this one, yeah. So this one is all stock. This is the kit version. The other one is the assembled one. That one has a new nozzle in there, which performs pretty much the same, but it's a coated one, so it's good for carbon fiber materials. I want to keep this one as a reference machine, just to be able to come back to it and see how this one performs compared to other machines. Now, what I like about this is, they did a few changes to the Marlin firmware that runs on here, so the LCD looks a bit different from what you see on other printers. Also, a few changes. They completely rewrote the kinematics code too, so I mean, it's a machine that just works. That's what I sort of like. yeah, OSHW. It's still open hardware. Yes, of course it is. The entire thing is open source, both hardware and software, and also the Slick 3R build that comes with the Mark II, which you can, by the way, also use for other machines. It works great there as well, and you get all the features they added on. But yeah, it's a machine that is simple enough to be used by most users with a bit of learning, but it's also one that is, that prints well enough that it's like a universal recommendation. Well, there surely are, for example, that one down there, there surely are machines that are more sophisticated, which I know you guys don't seem to appreciate that much, but the more I get into the 3D printing in a professional environment, because I am consulting a few companies to integrate 3D printing, FDM 3D printing into their workflow, the more I see the value of machines that are that offer extra value for users that aren't the maker class like you guys are, that can figure out an issue. Just having a machine that works. This one is borderline there, but it's not quite a machine that I'd put in an industrial or a professional environment. Nightbirdish Savage, yeah, chat has been savage too. So I did kind of cranking up a bit. So yeah. Have I gotten the 2.5, the Atom 2.5 EX upgrade kit yet? No, I will be getting one of those. We'll talk about that one when it comes to it. So, yeah. Okay, Mark II, overall good package. It's a machine that doesn't really lack anything. I guess it's sort of like the smartphone area where you don't measure a phone by what it does, but you measure a phone by what it doesn't do. Really quoting MKBHD there, but it's the same for 3D printers. There are expectations from my side on what a 3D printer should do, how it should perform, like print quality. That's one of those things that I'd never compromise on. And safety, that's the other one. Both of these, this machine does great at, even though, as some people are pointing out, yes, the frame is sort of flimsy, it sort of bends around, and it's not the most robust one. I wouldn't want to have this one as a machine that I carry around, but you set it down, it calibrates itself, it just works. So that's the reason why these machines, this and the other one, are still in my possession. They are some of my dearest machines, so yeah. That's that. Again, I've been using it a ton, and it's been my workhorse for the last, well, since I got it. When did I get it? 2-3 months ago? Let's talk about this one next. So today's stream shouldn't be that long. I'm trying to keep it under an hour, and I'm looking at the clock. I gotta keep each one short. Right, the Ultimaker 3. You've seen the unboxing. It kind of did fail in that initial print. I am trying to figure that out with Ultimaker. There is apparently an issue with the probe in here in this machine. It's not super reliable. I should be able to show you that actually, because I do keep my sample prints. Yep, there we go. That's the bottom there and there. And I'll just quickly refocus this camera while I'm at it, because that one was blurry. Okay. So, yeah, this one has, will a Mark III launch this time? No, but what would be great would be like a pro version of the machine. Joe, if you're watching, he's probably not watching, he's probably still hungover from New Year's Eve. But Joe, if you're watching, a Prusa Pro would be much appreciated by me. Okay, that was what okay, I take that back. It's probably hard to see still. But these were two parts that were printed in direct succession. So this one, Okay, you're not going to be able to see that, but this one has the artifacts of a nozzle that is way too low, so the individual layers got squished up, and this one came loose from the bed. It didn't stick. This one, next print, perfect. Perfect height, perfect adhesion, so I'm thinking there is something wrong with the capacitive sensor, the way it is set up. You can't calibrate it. You can't adjust how far off the first nozzle is going to be. You can offset how far each nozzle is going to be from the other, but not that. But enough for that. We are figuring that out, and that is sort of my policy with 3D printer reviews. If it's something that seems to be wrong with a particular machine, the manufacturer should have a chance to fix that. But, why did that screen just turn off? Is that just standby? Hoping you guys can still see. What? 1 second. What is going on? 1 second. 1 second. Oh gosh. No? Yes? No? We are experiencing technical difficulties. Okay, one screen it is then. Should be enough. Right, okay. Yeah. Let's talk about the Ultimaker 3, because as it turns out, so I got this one from iGo 3D. They sent me the machine. I don't know how much Ultimaker was involved there. But as it turns out, Ultimaker were like, okay, let him keep the machine until we bring out the next Ultimaker. So I'm guessing this is like a permanent loaner machine now, and when they bring out a new machine, they're going to send me, they're going to swap it out for the new. I have no idea how they're going to handle it, but I do get to keep this one for now, essentially. So this is my Ultimaker, essentially. Apart from what I've just talked about with the smart active, it's called active leveling. I like this for a few reasons. One, the entire Cura plus networking interface is really sweet because it's all from the same vendor. It's all by Ultimaker. Cura 2.3.1, so Cura 2 is actually a really nice slicer nowadays. I really enjoy using it. The way the Ultimaker 3 has been integrated is sweet. It works well. It's really comfortable just clicking send to printer. And I should review the init. Just shut up. I'm gonna block that next. Yeah, the way that is integrated, it's really comfortable. Just going to Cura, clicking send to printer, the machine starts printing on its own. That is awesome. Also, print quality. Print quality is absolutely through the roof. Well, this one is a bit misaligned, but I posted this on Twitter the other day. This was a 25 hour print. It's as close to perfect as you could have it, even though this is a Bowden 3mm system, which is still mind-boggling to me how a setup that should in theory be so inaccurate can print so well. I don't know what they're doing. It seems to work. I'm okay with that. So yeah, Cura upgraded to 2.4. I thought that was the beta, 2.4 beta. I really don't like beta software that much. But as far as I know, the current Cura version is 2.3.1, the current stable version. Right, it prints amazingly well. Also where's my fish tank? Oh, there. Also the water-soluble support material. Is probably, I know I keep talking about that, but water-soluble support material is probably the biggest thing in 3D printing, or in consumer FDM plastic-based 3D printing ever, because it does. I don't want to reach in. It's like a PVA juice, sauce, soup in there. But PVA and water-soluble support materials are awesome. They have the potential to change 3D printing entirely, and as far as I can tell, the Ultimaker 3 is the first machine that really does it well, that really pulls it off in its entirety. Because I mean, It's a bit gross if you just have to dissolve the PVA and then reach in with your hand, but I'm sure there's going to be solutions for that that are going to make this a bit more comfortable. But geometries that would be completely unprintable otherwise, that would require support material and manual removal and stuff, you print it, you throw it in a tank of water, and you wait 24 hours ish, and you end up with a part that is perfect. You don't need to worry about geometries anymore. It really works well. It does take a lot longer to print. That's the one downside, but yeah, kudos to Ultimaker for being like the first ones on that forefront to really commit to it. This is their highest end model. This is their highest, their most recent Ultimaker. That's what I was looking for. And there is no single extruder version. The Ultimaker 3 is always dual extruder. It's not like it's like a stepchild. Yeah, we also have this machine. We put 2 hot ends on it here. It's a dual extruder. No, this one is fully committed to that. And yeah, it's a great Ultimaker. It's 3,600 euros, which is a lot, arguably. The hardware, no way that's worth 3,600 euros. Manufacturing cost is nowhere near that. But again, that experience, and also not just hardware, not just the dual extrusion forefront there, but also the fact that it is a reputable manufacturer. It is pretty much the only big recommendable manufacturer right now, I think. Especially when you want something that is dual extrusion capable. Sure, there are others, but Ultimaker is like the one, okay, you buy it and it's just gonna work. Let's move on from the original Ultimaker to this guy. Okay. Now, the Dynamo 3D 1 Pro. Where do I start with this one? Yeah, BC and Sigma, much smaller manufacturer, obviously. That's an easy one. BC and Sigma, that's it. I do want to try that one out in the near future. They're not as big of a manufacturer, so maybe not as instant recommend worthy as an Ultimaker, but from what I've seen, it's a great machine as well. Okay, D3D 1 Pro. You've seen the review of this one, and then it's pretty much disappeared. The reason being is, again, that point of it didn't have a reason for existing. It didn't have any advantages over my other machines. It claimed to be fast. It is fast, but at the expense of printing like crap at those speeds. Also, things like the firmware update that it got, yes, it did get a firmware update which somewhat alleviated the stepper noise issue that made it unusable for me, because these steppers in here, they whine like crazy. But yeah, that has been somewhat alleviated. But if you look at the mechanics, I think I'll be able to just pop this one down here. If you look at the mechanics up here, yeah, I guess this side over here, it's not optimized for high-speed printing, because first off, these belts, well, depending on where the hot end is, these belts are super loose or super tight. They wobble around a bunch. There's no way of tensioning them. It just doesn't print well. And the other thing is the enormously long Z-axis. This is a 400 millimeter usable Z-axis. So these rods in the back here, these are way too long, and the bed is just super wobbly. So yeah, the problem is it's too nice to take apart. So it's just been sitting in the corner gathering dust. Plus it's a 3mm system, so I don't have that much 3mm filament. I do have a few rolls, but not like a ton to just try out. So yeah, this one is like a stepchild. It's too nice to take apart, because like the electronics, the software that runs on here is actually pretty nice, but the rest of the machine is just yeah, yeah, watch the review if you want to know more. That it's too nice to take apart. The other machines that were not too nice to take apart, 1, 2, 2, was it 3? 2. Yeah, were first off the BQ Hephaestus 2. That one sells for, I just checked recently, that one sells for 900 euros. And now that the Mark II is out, is basically obsolete. It's more expensive than the Mark II, and it doesn't have a heated bed. It's also mostly proprietary hardware, so you're, I don't know, you're left with a machine that is, yeah, fairly limited for what it costs. So that one got disassembled. Actually, I do have these boxes of just parts that came off of old machines, essentially. It was mechanically sort of a nice machine, but yeah, in the end, not worth it. For example, the X-axis rails you saw on the Mendel 90, those were the, what are these? Hewin? Yeah, genuine Hewin rails. These are, I mean, when a printer has those, that sort of nice components, but is otherwise not that great, then I do take them apart. That was one that I took apart. Arguably, yeah, the machine was printing well, but then also that entire story with BQ and me, which I don't want to get into too much right now, but I just didn't feel like giving them promotion in any way or shape anymore. So yeah, that was the Hephaestus 2. I took that one apart, scrapped it for parts. So that one got taken apart. The other one that got recently taken apart was the Malian M150. It printed well. That was a machine. Maybe does Google work that way? Does it do speech recognition and then suggest videos? Maybe. The reason why I took apart the Malian M150 was, while it printed well, it had a ton of downfalls, wire management, firmware configuration for safety, and that sort of stuff, that just made it uncomfortable to use. If you have the risk of, if this one wire comes loose, the printer is going to burn your house down. Just not cool, not something I want to do. I could have reworked that one into a machine that was usable, but just the point of reworking the machine, redoing all the wiring, reconfiguring the firmware, I can build an entire new printer in that time, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use some of the parts from the Malian M150 to build that super cheap Prusa i3 Mark II clone. Wherever you're going to see components on that build guide of the clone Mark II that I didn't order, I will have scrapped either from the Hephaestus 2 or from the M150. Okay, that was disassembled printers. So chat, let me know, what should I do with this thing? The other point, should I keep it? Should I put a new rebuild it into a proper Ultimaker 2? I don't know. What should I do with this one? People were saying give it away, but it's the same as with the Malian M150. If I give it away, it's like I'm throwing out my trash. I'm shipping out my trash to someone who it's not something I want to do. Send it out to Makerspace. It's like it's torturing the people with a subpar machine, and that's sort of not what I want to do. I'd rather team up with a manufacturer and give out a proper machine, which I might do soon, and give that away instead of a crap machine that not even I want to keep. So yeah, right. Talking of machines that were modified or shit, that's dusty. Modified or taken apart. Will it blend? Oh yeah, I do have that 9-pound sledgehammer. I might use it. It might actually shatter quite nicely. Right, the Maker Toolworks MLE Max 3. If you see my review of it, I wasn't that impressed with the machine as a 3D printer. I did mention though, if I'm ever going to convert a machine to a CNC mill, it would be this one. Now, as far as I know, the machine, the actual MLE Max 3, if you're going to buy a MLE Max 3 today, you'd get a vastly different machine from this one. But I guess the idea still stands. This is a machine made entirely from aluminum extrusions plus laser cut or machined sheet metal and aluminum. There we go. And the problem with this one is, even for a CNC machine or a CNC mill, these are all CNC machines after all. Now, even though they are using sheet metal, it's not really stiff. You can see this 1 millimeter, yeah. This 1 millimeter part here just bends. You can bend those sheet metal parts by hand. So I will be redesigning this thing a bit and hopefully convert it into something that is a bit more of a real CNC mill. These Dremels work great, but this one should work a bit better. This is like a 400 watt spindle with a proper chuck. These keep failing. That's why I still have the MLE Max 3. As a 3D printer, it was never that great. As a mill, hopefully it'll be a bit better. Just doing some. I've done some aluminum on this one, even with the Dremel. Wait, this is a Proxon, supposedly one that's a bit better. But yeah, it works pretty well even with aluminum. Obviously, it's better suited for acrylic and wood and stuff. But the goal is aluminum. So that's actually gonna be something I'm gonna be doing tomorrow with my Padawan, converting this one to the new motor and just making the machine a bit more solid. Maybe that's gonna be worthwhile. Either way, yes, there's gonna be a video on it. Yes, so we'll be talking about the process. I do keep filming it, so no worries there. So yeah, MLE Max 3 never great as a 3D printer, but maybe great as a CNC router. Now, reason for existing. The service reborn. Crap, I have a ton of printers. You never realize how many of these you have until you really start counting them. Okay, service reborn. Now, you will have seen this one. This is the featured video on the. It doesn't fit on frame. Okay, this is the featured video on the channel. It's been for a while, so you might be familiar with it. Still doesn't fit on frame. Great. It actually does print sideways. I did use it that way, so yeah. Right. This one is an experiment. It was an experiment. It is still an experiment. I mean, wire management isn't great, but this machine was a auto exposure. Yay! This one was an experiment of me building and designing a Delta printer, and it worked out pretty well. It prints pretty nicely. It doesn't print that reliably. I think I made a few mistakes with the smoothie configuration. I also wrecked the heated bed, but it is something to learn, and if you've got the time, don't underestimate the time it's going to take to do it, but if you've got the time and if you feel like it, I'd most certainly recommend someone who's into 3D printing, into making things, to try and maybe not design a 3D printer, but to just modify a few parts and make it yours. You can very easily just modify the existing designs and just add a few things that make it yours. Don't go into the trap of constraining yourself too much and trying to design an entire 3D printer from scratch. That is a lot of work, and especially it's a lot of work to make it work well. There are a lot of designs out there that do most of these things super well already that you're trying to achieve, but just as a practice run, more or less. It's great fun. It's very satisfying to have a machine that is completely your design, and yeah, it's great fun. Also, yes, as Chad is pointing out, don't fry sausages with the heated bed. You know, particularly not with the silicone heaters, because they don't like the heat. They fail at like 150 degrees, so don't do that. Yeah, this one is 300 millimeters diameter on the build surface, so that's the inner cycle here. If you add the corners of this hexagonal bed as well, it's a bit more, so it's probably like a 400 millimeter total length across the hexagonal build area. Right, by the way, this one is built with sort of a modification of the, what's it called? The system with the rails. Open builds. Yes, these are open builds rails, but not on these are open builds wheels, but not on open builds rails. Let's see if I can get one of these in frame at least. No, I cannot. And they ride on the diagonal sides, so on the corners of a regular 20 millimeter extrusion. So again, experiment. That was something I wanted to try out. And as you can see, you know, I did have to go in and change some of the design elements after it was built. So these aluminum panels weren't part of the original design. Originally, the plan was to have acrylic sheets on the side, but also that was also sort of an afterthought. But these 20 millimeter extrusions are not nearly stiff enough to support the, you know, the kind of leverage such a tall printer has. Okay. No way I'm gonna put that back. What's chat saying? You guys are discussing the ANET A8. Yeah, I'm gonna have one of those coming. I'm gonna treat it like any other printer, and we'll just see how it goes. Of course, there will be a live build. Now, this one. The Printrbot Play, this is the red one. You can't buy them in red anymore, I'm sorry. Because this is a slightly pre-production. So this was like at the point where you've got your design finished and go into production. This one was one of the very earliest Printrbot Play models. I love this machine. I did stand on it in the review. Should I stand on it again? Because it certainly can take it. It's, you know, it's great. It's one of those machines that you just pick up and it just always works. For a few reasons. One, it is a super simple design. It's simpler than the Printrbot Simple, which is ironic, but it's, you know, it's got the tool head, which is mostly covered up. It's got an unheated bed, just some blue tape on it. It's got a very simple hot end that just, you know, it's even only got one Z-axis spindle, which is unthinkable these days. But it works. You just pick it up, you load up Cura. You load up Cura and even use the wrong profile. You can even use the Printrbot, what is it? The simple Makers Kit. The profiles for those work perfectly for the Play. You load it up, it prints. This is the machine I go on travels with. This is the machine I take, you know, anywhere I need a 3D printer on the road. I love it. Also, it's red. It's pretty rad because it's red. And yeah, it doesn't have the greatest print quality. It doesn't have the greatest, you know, print volume features. In fact, it doesn't have any features to talk about. But it's a machine that is, it's just fun to use. It's just really fun to use. Brian Gray is saying scale it up 200%, and he'd think of getting it. They actually make one that is essentially the Play scale up 200%. So that's the Printrbot Plus, I believe it's called. And it's a very similar design. But yeah, super simple machine. Love it. Super robust. You know, it takes a beating. It's a steel frame, so no way this thing is getting destroyed. So yeah, really, really great machine. And I do have a project plan for it because there is a bunch of space down here. Also, there's a bunch of space on the sides here. So batteries, lithium batteries, maybe. Okay. So another machine that sort of falls into that same category is the Lulzbot Mini. Actually, funny story about this one. This was one of the first 3D printers I got, and Lulzbot never explicitly specified that I could keep this one. They just never asked for it back, so I guess we're now cool with this being mine. If you've seen, the original one, I do have the original tool head back here. Well, it's not original, but this one comes with like this bright green Waze extruder. I did put some experimental hardware from E3D on there. That one's working out pretty well, and I do want to keep the Lulzbot Mini sort of in the same spot as the Printrbot Play. As a machine that just works, you pick it up, you print with it. That's the idea, and it mostly does that job pretty well. With the original hardware, maybe better than with the modified one. This is obviously converted to 1.75, but yeah, it's one of those things that it has the PI surface on here. It has the auto leveling that is really good. It's bulletproof. It's maybe not as fancy as some of the other solutions. It's just an electrical contact to the shims down here, and the hot end just touches down on those. And yeah, it's great. Particularly, in the same thought as the Ultimaker or the Prusa Mark II or even the Printrbot. Lulzbot make their own flavor of Cura. It's still based on the old Cura 15, but they provide you with that Cura with pretty much perfect profiles for the Play, for the Mini and for the TAS 6 and for all the other machines that you pick up, you print with. They just work. They just do their thing. So that's one of the things I really like about the Lulzbot machines, having that Cura soft, that it has all the materials in there, all the everything you could want just ready to pick up and print. The only thing that's sort of missing here is an LCD, but I mean, you can add that. That's not that much of a big deal to add an LCD, especially since the Lulzbots are very religious about, or Aleph Objects, the company making Lulzbot, are very religious about making everything open source, about using open source software for creating their products and for publishing their design files. Okay, the Eternity Fabricator Mini. That's pretty much the Atom. Okay, that's going to be the last one I'm talking about. Yeah, the Fabricator Mini. Okay, to be honest, this printer is a bit of a joke. Sorry, HobbyKing, but I mean, look at it. It's tiny. So print area is like 8 by 8 centimeters. 8 by 8 by 8, a tiny boy. The intent was to be as cheap as possible, but at like, what is it, like 120, 150 euros? There's a new version of this one coming out. It's encroaching into the AliExpress i3 kit terrain, which is not necessarily an area of printers I'd recommend you going for, but you can get much more of a printer for that same money, essentially. It is sort of a smart design, but really the main reason why I've not scrapped it yet is that there's not much to salvage. Now it's using these tiny 4mm rods. It's using this weird geared system for the belts. It's even only got the tiny NEMA 14 motors in here. I don't know. There you go. So these are practically useless for anything that requires a bit of torque. Of course, this E3D hot end is fake. It's a clone. What is a bit of a redeeming factor is that it's using the full MKS, what is the base a full MKS baseboard, yay, which is way overkill for this tiny machine. But for now, it sort of works. It really does need a part cooling fan. Maybe I'm going to add one of these because as with all Far East, that's the camera that's active. Okay, as with all cheap Far East machines, there is a bit of a bigger community around it. So things like part cooling fans and such you can very easily find and just download, print, and upgrade your machine that way. But other than that, this machine doesn't really have that much of a of a cool factor, of a selling point per se, as some of the other machines. Of course, you know, even next to the Play, which is a small printer, it is still tiny, yes, but you know, I think the Play is small enough to the Play is small enough to lug around. It's never gotten in my way. Wow, 14 millimeters a second. That is really slow. Okay, I guess the last one to talk about is, yeah, well, I do still have the Markforged machine. That one's giving me a bit of trouble as well. But again, I am trying to figure that one out. Ooh, that was the element. Okay, I'm trying to figure out those issues before I come to any hasty conclusions. Right. That reminds me, I do have to review this thing. Okay. Atom 2.0. So, what the hell is this? So, chat has asked about the Atom 2.5 upgrade kit, whether or not I've received that one yet. I have not, in fact, but I will be getting one, obviously, which makes this one a dual extrusion Delta 28 centimeter across. Oh, it's a bit dusty. Delta printer. And the reason why I'm keeping this one, why I have this one, is just to have a reference commercial Delta platform, more or less. Yes, I do. It's over there. I do have the Cerberus Reborn, which is also a Delta 3D printer. But this one is, you know, mechanically it's a lot nicer. It's a lot less wobbly. It's wobblier. It's a much nicer build. Of course, it does use proprietary hardware for the hot end. But I mean, you could swap that out if you wanted to. I am trying to keep it stock as much as possible. But I want to have this one as a reference platform for Deltas for, you know, trying things out on a Delta, making comparisons from one to the other. I did feel bad talking about Deltas and not actually having one. I did have multiple chances of trying them out. I did experiment with them before I built the Cerberus Reborn, but now I just have these two machines. One of them is bound to work, and yeah, what I did with this one recently, it's been a few months, putting in the smoothie board. Again, experimental platform because the other one already has a smoothie board. So yeah, this is more or less an in-between of the full-on DIY Cerberus Reborn and, you know, the fully, I'm going to leave it as I bought it, Mark II, Lulzbot Mini, maybe not, Mark II, but yeah, an in-between. You can put other stuff in it. You don't have to. Yeah, I'm not printing a lot with it, as you might see from the super dusty bed, but I will be trying out a few things with 0.9 degree motors, which I promised a long time ago, but that's coming also. The motors in here are very weird. They're a high inductance one. They're super long and also off frame. Cool! Can you see that? There you go. It's a super long NEMA 17 motor, so these behave quite a bit differently from what you'd see in other machines, but I guess that's the fun part about it. Okay, that's it. Yeah, so obviously lots of lots of potential for experiments there. Did I have a MakerBot earlier? So that's actually a good point, Ali. So MakerBot, obviously, I've tried to stay away, sort of. By the way, thank you for these stickers. I tried to stay away from MakerBot for a while. I know they are one of the biggest. I don't think they're actually the best-selling 3D printer brand anymore, but they are one of the biggest 3D printer manufacturer or consumer 3D printer manufacturer out there. I would be interested to just see how well they perform, just on an objective basis, just going, okay, I'm gonna throw all stereotypes aboard. I'm just gonna go with a fresh start, with a clean mind in there, and just try it out as a 3D printer and see how well or how badly it does. That would be interesting, but yeah. Chat, too much going on in chat here. Right. Okay. So goal for today was 1 hour. Got a few more minutes. Let's just read through chat and answer a few questions. Will I be getting the quad upgrade for the Mark II? Yes, definitely. I was offered the beta version, but as I said before, when it comes to beta software or beta hardware, I'm not a huge fan because it usually means I do have to spend so much more time on getting things to work, fixing bugs, working around bugs, instead of actually testing and using the stuff. It's just not worth it for me. The spool holder on the Atom, it's bad for tilting up. Watch the review, you can see it in there. Thoughts on the Prusa i4? There is no Prusa i4. There are machines that call themselves that, but they're just, you could just call them Mali and M50 as well. Yeah, can we do a show only on RepRap designs? Is Hebs007 is asking. So the point is RepRap. I mean, I love the RepRap project. The RepRap project is dead. I still love it. It's still dead. RepRap was much more relevant when, when there weren't that many manufacturers that, for example, gave you an Ultimaker or an Atom or the Lulzbot Mini or the Printrbot player. I guess that one is most comparable to a RepRap style machine. The point about 3D printed parts in a 3D printer is maybe not so much about you building the 3D printer from scratch, which arguably for the Mark II you can totally do, and I'm gonna do that. This one uses anything black on here, and even this this black shroud on the back here, and this one. This is a RepRap machine. This is the fullest extent of a RepRap machine. I know it's using the aluminum frame, and it's using this CNC machine, I think. It's also using the bed undercarriage, which is aluminum and machined, so it's not exactly made with a 3D printer, but this is the closest thing to a RepRap. Essentially, no. I've noticed people are barely using the name RepRap anymore, other than on AliExpress to rank up in search results. But this one is using mostly printed parts, or exclusively printed parts even. And that's great because you can go in, you can download the files, you can reprint them as you'd like. That's a huge thing if you're a tinkerer, if you're modding your own machines. It's great. Now, the Lulzbot Mini is also using 3D printed parts. Is it still a RepRap? I don't know. The definition of what is a RepRap and what is not has always been very loose. So the accents are printed, the extruder, the original extruder is printed, the carriages are printed, the drag chain mounts here are printed. So yeah, even the spool holder is printed. So for the most part, For the most part, it is a reprop. However, it's using this large steel frame, which is a very integral part of the machine, and you're not going to be able to print one or build one without having that same frame, which is a custom part, a very custom part, more custom than what is on the i3 Mark II. So is it still a reprop? I don't know. Does it matter? Probably not. It only matters when you really want to build a machine from scratch, from completely not having to rely on any it's actually pretty hard to define what the reprop project even was about. Well, it was about, let's start at the beginning. The core idea of the reprop project was to replicate as much of the 3D printer with other 3D printer like machines, or with machines that were produced by those original machines. So that included the printed parts. In the early days, we were even printing the pulleys, the belt pulleys for the motors. So as much as possible 3D printed. People were even using a marker and mark out their own PCBs and then etch them, and that would be part of your reprop, because you could potentially just use the machine you just built to build another one, including the PCB. PCBs don't make any sense to make at home if it's like a design you can reproduce more than twice or so. So yeah, it might have been a bit too ambitious. What stayed though is the entire idea of having 3D printed parts, because that's what we're building after all. We are building 3D printers that make 3D printed parts. And I do like it when manufacturers use plastic parts or 3D printed parts, or even when they use machined parts or injection molded parts and give you the files for them, because the advantage I see is you being able to get those parts, modify them, make your own, or even clone the machine. That's the other point to it. Now, things like super complex CNC machine parts or steel frames like on the Mini, of course, don't help that entire idea of being able to make one of those machines yourself. But when you're looking around at how easily available things like frame kits for an i3 or pulleys or linear, look at what the salesman had for linear bearings. It was a set of radial bearings. I don't have any here, but instead of having one bearing that just slides along the rail, it had one in this direction, one in this, and then one. It was crazy. It was nowhere near practical. It was hell to build, and it didn't even work that well. So I think nowadays we are in a much better spot for 3D printers that you build and modify yourself than we were a good while ago. So we are making good progress there. Also, the machines are getting much more powerful because we've taken that step away from having to 3D print everything on our machines and having to manufacture everything ourselves. It's a good thing that we can now go on AliExpress and buy crappy hop bolts for 30 cents a pop. It's better than machining them yourself, trust me. So, yeah. Now, as far as other machines go that I will be testing here, I will be checking out, of course, you guys don't shut up about it. The ANET A8, yes, I do have one of those incoming. Again, I will be treating it just like any other machine, and I will also be treating the Tivu Tarantula like any other machine, which means get the box, unbox it, build it. No enormous research beforehand, no days of research and reading up manuals and gathering mods to do. The manufacturer, if you're buying a 3D printer kit from a manufacturer, that's his job to give you a kit that you can build and that is going to perform. So just like any other 3D printer. So yeah. Chat, anything else? Yeah, Grogging is saying his first printer was a Salzmendel. That was my first printer as well. I still remember. I still have fond memories of that thing. Wow, what a mess. No manual reading. Yes, I will be reading the manuals, obviously. But as I hear, there aren't manuals. There aren't any proper manuals included with the TiVo. We'll see what they do. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Open source to Reborn. Did I publish the files? I don't know. Did I publish the files for the Cerberus Reborn? I don't think I did, but it's not such a spectacular design that you should be building it. There are better Delta designs out there. This was mostly a test for my own skills. Right, that's the hour completed, I think. Yeah, I hope you now have an overview of why I keep all these printers, why I have all these machines that, well, that view doesn't do anything, that seem to be superseded by others. I just wanted to point that out. Each machine has its own value. The Play isn't a great 3D printer, but it's a great 3D printer for its application. Same goes for the Atom, same goes for the Cerberus. They each have their use. And if you're thinking about getting a 3D printer or buying one or building one, think about what you need in that 3D. It's sort of part 2 of my picking a 3D printer video. Think about what your needs are. Think about what you can compromise on, and don't just buy the cheapest thing you find, because chances are it's not going to be what you need. So, yeah. How many printers are we at now? I think 9 plus 2. 9 that I have in a working state and 2 that I disassembled. So, yeah. That's going to be one more once we build that super cheap i3 Mark II. But until then, I'd say thanks everyone for being here. Thanks everyone for watching, and have a great evening or day, and I'll see you in the next one. Stop streaming. Yeah, why do you put that?